My name is Sarah Toby Mota. I was born in an area which is now known as a cradle of life, not cradle of humankind, in Mpumalanga province. I now live in a small village called Steinsdorp since 1975. This is where Umphakatsi Peace Ecovillage is located. Thank you very much to the team that has invited me today to talk more about the concept of the Ecovillage, the challenges, success, and perhaps the kind of support that is required to grow this movement across all villages, across all townships, across all towns, across all cities, not only in South Africa, but across the whole world, in particular Africa. So in 2006, I asked myself, what is the purpose of life beyond waking up in the morning, going to work for someone, and maybe aspire to have another qualification to queue and ask for a job from someone? I asked this question from observing how my parents and my grandparents and great grandparents raised us. So the solution was looking and reflecting on the indigenous knowledge systems that have existed and they've used to sustain us. So simple question as how did they build the houses they lived in? I found answers in the environment by using water, by using grass, by using wood, by using earth. Hence, you have the so-called clay buildings or adobe type of buildings, which you find in the oldest buildings of Africa, in Mali, for example, where the first university was built out of clay, also a mixture of earth, straw, and water, which is called adobe, that mixture. Um, so I found solutions there. I said, oh, wow, that's the reason land is so important, or nature is so important. And those that came later in our continent, they couldn't look anywhere else to dispossess us or to displace us. They just went over land and and used and continuously using it for their benefit. So land is an important component here. So fast forward, I looked at the modality of how you get land in the village. Where I live, it used to be a homeland called Gangwane. So currently the land is under the authority of COCTA, which is a traditional affairs department of government, and the chiefs and headmen are in charge of allocating land. But having been the founder of Umphakatsi Peace Ecovillage, I also started an NPO called Human Rights Education Center, because my background is in human rights, migration studies, and international law. So I started an NPO called the Human Rights Education Center, where I was educating myself and others in a way of sharing what are these rights? Are they relevant to me or to us as Africans? And I found that, in fact, the values that are in our constitution are reminding us of how we used to be. The values of dignity, the values of equality, the values of being non-discriminatory, the values of Ubuntu, which was the spirit of sharing that we are now, and communal living, which we are now being reminded through our 1996 constitution. So it's just an exciting factor. So I took that to the local leaders, including the chiefs and the headmen and the headwomen, to just share this knowledge. And I think at that time, which was 10 years after we had our constitution, it was important that us who were aware of this document, which we all fought for, to liberate ourselves from the chains of apartheid and maybe slavery, as the constitution does allude to slavery. It was important that we take it to our own people. So I took that initiative to educate the local leaders about the constitution. And then when I went to get to ask to get the land, I was given, which is a standard document that's being used by all settlements in South Africa that are under the leadership of chiefs, managed by COCTA. It's called a permission to occupy. So there was no discrimination on my gender to say because I'm a woman, I cannot access land. So the authority, the leadership understood that I have the same rights as any other person in the village, irrespective of my gender identity or sexual orientation. So with that knowledge has helped a lot in facilitating a lot of other engagements that the Ecovillage has. So that's how I secured the land. And by that time, there was very beautiful scenic land. And I asked myself, why so much? Because I had the eyes now, I could see these scenic rivers, these beautiful mountains. I found that the narrative that and our perception of what development is about us leaving rural areas and moving to cities or urbanized areas and look for employment opportunities there. Yet the beauty that is there is already employment, is self-employment for us, is how is the type of knowledge we have on how can we transform those landscapes into any other setup that we aspire to have. And in fact, I had to look into the photos of how Johannesburg used to be in the early 1800s. It was about just few farms, and it was people migrating to the city for different reasons that then ended up having the infrastructure that Johannesburg is having. But is this the type of development that we want? Not necessarily. We need development that is ecologically centered and people centered. It's not driven by profits, it's driven by human needs, which are, according to Max Neff, Max Neff, we can talk about him one day. But Max Neff identifies about 12 basic human needs which a person every day cannot live without. That includes shelter, energy, water, creativity, participation, clothing, affection, and so forth, including water. And he further goes on to say, which also links into the theory and practice of Freiren's pedagogy, is that we should take ownership in producing all of what we consume. So that's basically the concept of the Ecovillage. You must understand the production of the items that you consume daily, and you must have some hands-on experience or knowledge on how to do it. So the indigenous knowledge systems that I observed and gathered from my parents and my great-grandparents taught me to be a producer, taught me to value nature as the only resource that can sustain humanity. And in nature, you'll find very important elements, about 4 of them, which is the air that we breathe, how important that we must not undermine, pollute, and just take it for granted that the air has, we need air. The ecosystem to live, it needs fresh air, oxygen, to be utilized for the natural species, but also for sustaining our human lives. So air is an important element. The earth I've already mentioned, water, and the sun. These are very, very basic environmental elements that we need. Now, with this drive of believing or structurally designed to remove indigenous populations or displace them from the land to somewhere needs to be reversed. Because as we sit today, we have about 60% of young people, the last time I checked, 2018, who have migrated from rural areas to urban areas. Yet in Spain, the young people are reversing that migration. Why I'm mentioning Spain is that this journey of eco villages has taken me all over the world. So people started hearing, who is this Sarah Toby Mota? What is she doing? And they started inviting me to speak in different conferences, and also live in their villages and learn. And I further got a scholarship to be trained on eco villages with other fellow Africans and other young, or other young people from, I was young then. I was young. uh, Young people from across the world. So it became an extended area of deepening the knowledge and understanding that the restoration of the indigenous knowledge system is not something that is new today. Is something that has sustained communities intergenerationally. 1652, slavery came with a mass destruction of the entire international community. So with this eco-village concept, it's a way in which we can peacefully negotiate power, but we don't want to be locked in negotiation of power. We want to use the available resources wherever we are. In fact, in the Netherlands, there is a movement called transition towns. Young people there are transitioning the town to be ecologically friendly, which means the town must not grow ornamental trees. They must replace ornamental trees with fruit trees, because there's nothing wrong with having fruit trees all over our cities, all over our streets, because this is where we will get fresh, immediately squeezed juice, which has not been transported from thousands and thousands of kilometers, or even flown to our country, or even shipped and polluting the environment. We will be eating directly from our backyard, because the development that we have, it means we have concrete everywhere. You close over your foot, your lawn. Your lawn must be must be this green lawn which you water, and at the end of the day you have a high water bill and you still don't have food. Food is a huge crisis in this country, I must say. Before COVID, a study by Oxfam revealed that 25% of households were not having anything to eat daily, which is about 14 million South Africans. Now, that number has increased to 50%. That's the recent count, as many people lost their jobs. This concept of eco villages has a different way of understanding economy. We ask ourselves, what type of economics existed before slavery and the arrival of this ship which carried lots of men. Van Riebeck, he was a thief. He was dumped in the Cape of Good Coast because he had started to trade into his pocket in the east. So they dumped him here, and then he started doing all the violations, and then it expanded. You can cut that, program director, if it doesn't suit the script. But I'm sorry, I have to say this to just release it. So food is a very important element in the eco villages. I talk a lot. I used to be a teacher as well, so I can go on, but do follow the eco village narrative. We have an exchange program where we go to communities and share what we're doing and how it can be done practically. We have a high number of young people in South Africa, and actually one scholar says one of a resource that has not exploited in this lifetime is the capacity of the youth. So with the eco village energy, we can all repurpose our energy towards being creatives, towards creating and producing almost everything that we eat. And we can transform every settlement and into an ecologically friendly space where we learn to produce energy from the sun, where we learn to produce gas for cooking from biodegradable material that comes from your waste in the kitchen or even from your animals. You can transform that into gas. There's so much learning. I've also indicated that this journey has taken me all over the world, in Ghana, in Senegal. It's amazing. I never wanted to come back when I was in Senegal, because the government of Senegal has seen a success of eco-villages, not needing much from government, but just minimal support, of which I've built the eco-village on my own resources. When I get a job, I build one small rondaville there. But I use most of the time locally sourced material. So the government of Senegal has then set up a Ministry of Eco-Villages after seeing a successful intervention of about 45 eco-villages in Senegal, working absolutely perfect with not much of the needs that we have, most of us as South Africans, which are around food, shelter, education, and employment. So they've set up a Ministry of Eco-Villages, and they are now transforming 14,000 rural villages into eco-villages. And we can learn a lot from there. It's not magic. It does not need much resources. It just needs human resources, people who are dedicated, who need to be there. We have programs like the Expanded Workers Program. Those programs can be repurposed, because the nice thing, they have a little bit of a stipend, which means slowly they can progress to be independent, and that stipend at some point it can be cut, because all of more or less the basic needs will be met just by practicing eco-village principle or ecological principles. You can follow me on on Facebook, which is Umphakatsi Peace Ecovillage. You will see few pages, but you will know the one which was not hijacked, which is our page. My contacts are 079-766-5803. We also have a YouTube page called Umphakatsi Peace Ecovillage. Our email address is umphakatsi@gmail.com. You can also come and stay with us and experience how we're doing things as a volunteer. On the other end, I also work for the Foundation for Human Rights as a program manager for vulnerable groups. That's what maybe some of you might know me of. Peace, love, and harmony. Anything I forgot to share, please talk to me at any time. I have an emergency that's related to the Ecovillage. I had to do this pre-recording. I hope to hear from you soon. Namaste. Ngiyabonga. Thokoza. Amaku.